Hey everybody, this is Zach Comer, owner of Asheville Medical Massage, and today I'm joined by my colleagues from the office, Charlie Wright and Jeffrey Rich, as we continue to bring you more of our favorite ideas and advice that you can implement as part of the 21-day New You Challenge. Our mission with this challenge is to help you keep your immune system strong, to reduce your anxiety, strengthen your brain health, and emerge from this coronavirus epidemic healthier than we entered into it. So in today's call, we're going to be hearing from Charlie and Jeffrey about the use of flower essences. What are flower essences? How can they be beneficial to your health? And some of their own personal experience with them, with their own health, as well as with the health of their clients over the years. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to you, Charlie, to give us an introduction into flower essences.
Thanks, Zach. Well, before we get started on all of that, I wanted to tell a joke. And this is a joke from one of my sons, and it was his favorite joke. And when he was 7, 8 years old, he would tell this one to anybody that would listen. So it goes like this. Do you know what the difference between boogers and broccoli is?
Boogers and broccoli?
Boogers and broccoli.
I don't know, but I'm sure Jeffrey does.
Well, they're both green.
Potentially.
I like that. Well, the difference between boogers and broccoli is that kids don't eat broccoli. Although your kids eat both, right, Zach?
Our kids they eat the tops off the broccoli, not the stems yet, but they eat the little flowerets.
Well, anyway, moving right along from that, we had a strategy meeting a few days ago that we talked about what we wanted to present to all of you, and kind of top ideas, what we would want to have presented. And both Jeffrey and I agreed that one of the top things would be talking about flower essences, particularly about Rescue Remedy. And so I have personally had probably over 35 years of experience using Rescue Remedy and flower essences, and I think they're absolutely phenomenal. I have seen people in full-out panic attacks and give them some Rescue Remedy, and within 5 minutes they're completely calmed down and didn't even know what the fuss was all about. So it's absolutely amazing remedy that every family, every person should have on their person and in their home. So what I wanted to give just a very brief background of where it all came from. And Dr. Edward Bach was a very prominent London physician who Harley Street, which is where all the famous physicians practiced. And he was very well known and well respected in the medical community. But he really felt that there was a deeper level to healing than just giving allopathic medicine. And so really, he gave up his very lucrative and successful practice, and he retired to Wales when he was in his early 40s. And he devoted the rest of his life to discovering these flower essences and how they would help with different emotional states. And he really felt that our emotional states and what we were thinking was so tied into our physical maladies. Not that it's across the board that way, but a certain fair percentage of disorders and diseases of the body could be traced to emotional states. So he developed 38 different remedies, and the Rescue Remedy is a combination of 5 of those flower essences. And just to tell a brief story about something that Dr. Bach actually did, because this is all back in the 1930s that he did all the discovery of this. And after he had retired from his medical practice, and he ended up living in the country, and he was staying down at a seaside town, and they had a huge storm that came up, and there were a couple sailors that were being tossed and turned out on the ocean that everybody could see, but the seas were so rough nobody could actually get to them. Finally, they were able to pull them in, and one of the sailors was near death, and he was laying on the beach, and Dr. Bach came up and administered the rescue remedy to him. And within a couple minutes, the man was able to actually stand up and walk away. So, and I've heard other stories too of just absolutely miraculous things happening with rescue remedy.
So Charlie, can you tell us what flower essences are? Can you give us just a little basic
Yeah, flower essence, take flowers, and you would put them in a bowl and you set them out in the sunlight and let them be there for like 4 hours in the sunlight, basically picking up on the energy of the sun coming through into the flower petals. And then he would mix that with brandy to preserve it. And that's how he developed these different flower remedies. So that's essentially what flower essences are. And there's a whole, like I said, there's 38 of his remedies, but it's gone on to be actually hundreds and hundreds of different remedies that different people have come up with over the years. So, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your own personal experience with it, using it for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I have used it, you know, like when I worked at Warren Wilson, I would have students come in who are all freaked out about something, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, professor, who knows what. And I'd say, well, what's your anxiety level, stress level? And they'd say, oh, it's about an 8 right now. And you could see them visibly shaking. So I would give them, and I can show you what they have. This is like, you can get this at Whole Foods and also at French Broad. It's a little pastilles, they call them. And you just suck on those. And I found these to be very helpful. And so I'd give one of these to one of the students, and they would be calm within 2 minutes. And that's how quickly it works. So
Heal their heartbreak, huh? Just like that.
exactly, exactly. So, but one of the other stories that I wanted to tell about using flower essences is that way back about when my oldest son, who's now 36, when he was about 3 years old, he jumped off a couch and hit his forehead on the edge of a chair. And immediately a big goose egg formed on his head. And so I went and got some castor oil and put on that to reduce the swelling. And then I gave him some rescue remedy just to calm him down. But within an hour or so after that, he started stuttering. And he was a very articulate 3-year-old. So this was just like, came out of absolutely nowhere. And so I was in the middle of reading, studying about flower essences at this time. And so I looked up in one of my books about stuttering, and it said, stuttering can be caused by the shifting of cranial plates in the head. And I went, oh, well, that's interesting. So luckily I had one of the flower essences that helps to realign the cranial plates. And I started dosing Micah with it. And one of the other side effects of this particular flower essence is that it made you appreciate your physical body. So about an hour or 2 hours after we started dosing him with this particular flower essence, you could see Micah walking around the house, little 3-year-old Micah, and he'd pull up his t-shirt and he'd rub his belly and he'd go, Micah's got a nice body. My wife and I looked at each other and we went, oh my goodness. It was because he had never said that ever before. So we were like, it was totally trippy.
And he was no longer stuttering either?
Well, he still, and I also worked with a chiropractor that did cranial work. So we took him up there, and sure enough, he had some cranial misalignment. So between the cranial work and the flower essences, within 2 or 3 days, his stuttering completely disappeared. And we stopped giving him the remedy. He stopped pulling his t-shirt up and rubbing his belly and saying, nice body, nice body. So it was pretty cool. I mean, it was an amazing thing.
That's a great story.
Yeah. So, but anyway, you can look up Bach Flower Remedies, B-A-C-H, Flower Remedies online. You can order them online. I would for sure, if nothing else, get the Rescue Remedy because it's 5 of the different flower essences put together, and they all have to do with shock and high stress. In fact, I have a description of it right here. I'll read to everybody. And it's called, the positive qualities of this are to induce calmness and stability in any emergency or time of high stress. How's that sound to everybody?
It sounds especially pertinent to the moment, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Times of high stress,
I
emergency.
have been, every once in a while when I feel myself getting a little eye twitchy, I'll take some and it immediately calms me right down. So it's good stuff. So I think that's all I'm going to say today. But I want to turn it over to Jeffrey because I know he's got a great dog story he wants to share with everybody.
Thanks. Yeah, I was introduced to flower essences when I was in massage school 21, 22 years ago. I was a software developer at the time and working in a high stress job. And I was working full time. I was commuting an hour and a half a day, and I was going to school about 22 hours a week. So it was a big, it was a lot to do. And when test times would come around, practical times would come around, our teachers said, well, try this stuff. It's called Rescue Remedy. And I thought, I don't know what that is. But she just gave us a couple of drops in a glass of water so that we could calm down, take our test, and it really worked. And I was skeptical about it because I wasn't sure if it was just the suggestion of calming or not. But I introduced it in the workplace. There was a gal who was on a project with me, and we were working with a pretty high stress VP. And one day she was really stressed. And I said, Sue, try some of this. And I gave her a few drops in a glass of water. And after about 10 minutes, she said, wow, that was great. And my other story, very soon after that, I was house sitting for a friend who was in Argentina. And she had 2 dogs that I was taking care of. And one of the dogs was a rescue and wasn't very well socialized. And he was really scared of thunderstorms and pretty much everything terrified him. So I'd heard that you could put the Rescue Remedy in the water bowl. And so I did that. I put in about 3 drops a day in his water bowl. And after about a day, we had a big thunderstorm that night and the dog never even blinked. And, people came to the door, he didn't bark, and he wasn't, drugged. He was alert and he was just very calm. So if it works on a dog, I know that I'm not making it up. It's really good stuff. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Well, thanks guys for offering some education and personal anecdotes about your experience with flower essences. And again, the primary one here, the most common one that Charlie's reference is called Rescue Remedy. You can find that, you said, Charlie, online or in certain stores around town if they're still in stock, Whole Foods, French Broad, Co-op, probably some other health food type stores. And again, this is, we're offering you ideas that you can use as freely as you'd like to at any time you'd like to. But of course, if you're participating in our 21-day challenge, then one thing you could do here is during that 10 or more minutes a day that you're dedicating to self-care during these unique circumstances, you could begin that time with a few drops of the flower essences if you get them in the liquid form, or the pastel or pastele form that Charlie showed you his package of there. But in any case, we just encourage you to look at this as one way to help reducing, as a strategy to help reduce your anxiety right now and calm your overall system and make this time period a little easier for you and those around you. So anything you guys want to add before we hop off?
The only thing I'd like to add is that if you don't have Rescue Remedy in your home, if you can get it, great. But if you don't, black tea and green tea also contain something called L-theanine, and that boosts neurotransmitters in the brain, gamma aminobutyric acid, also known as GABA, serotonin, and dopamine, all of which also contribute to calming. Green tea has more L-theanine, but black tea is just fine too. It gives you a calm alertness. And that's doesn't work quite as well as the Rescue Remedy. That's my first go-to. But if you don't have Rescue Remedy, the black tea is a good second.
Yeah. So you could simply, brew your tea and sit for 10 minutes while holding your cup and being mindful about the experience of it all.
Exactly.
The heat of the cup in your hand, the sensation of the taste, and just take that time potentially to just get a little bit more grounded, a little bit more centered, and help calm yourself.
Rescue Remedy is quicker, but if you don't have it, tea will work just fine.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on today. And of course, we'll have some other calls like this coming up soon to share some other ideas with people. But appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Zach.
Hang in there, everybody.
Yeah.
Stay healthy. Take care, guys.